Hello, and welcome to Philosophy 230, Contemporary Moral Problems. Uh, my name is Andrew Fife, and I'll be your instructor for this quarter. I guess I should tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a Greener grad, Evergreen State College. Grew up in Texas, though. Spent some time in grad school at the University of Miami. Spent some time in grad school at the University of Washington, and I've taught at Pierce. I've taught at the Fort Steilacoom campus before, and this quarter I'll also be teaching an ethics course at the Puyallup campus. I've also taught at Green River Community College and spent some time in the military. I'm sure that this being Pierce College, we probably have a good number of Fort Lewis soldiers in the course. So I would like to thank you for your service to begin with. And if anybody has spent some time in Operation OIF, go ahead and shoot me an email. We'll trade some stories. So for the course, what is contemporary moral problems? Well, let me define the course and the subject matter of the course by just talking about how the field of ethics is divided up. Generally, ethics is divided up into three parts. Metaethics, which deals with questions like what are ethical laws, what is goodness, things like that. Are ethical laws similar to natural laws like gravity? Is goodness some sort of weird? How does goodness, having beliefs about what things are good, motivate us? Are moral statements just descriptions of the world, or are they some sort of command or expression of feeling? So metaethics, one way to think about metaethics is when I say murder is wrong, metaethics deals with what does that question mean? Is it saying that there's some sort of property of wrongness, like red, that the act of murder has? Or is it some sort of command, like nobody murder? Or is it some sort of command coupled with an expression of feeling, like boo murder, nobody murder? So metaethics deals with those sorts of fundamental issues about ethics. It doesn't deal with meta meaning before, so before ethics. It doesn't deal with what you should do or coming up with answers about what ethical rules we should follow or dealing with specific moral problems, because it's just dealing with the place of ethical truths in the broader scheme, the broader metaphysics of the world. The next branch of ethics, so that's metaethics, before ethics, then we have what's sometimes called ethical theory or normative ethics. And those are the abstract, broad theories which may or may not be true about the ethical facts of our world. Lastly, there is the third section, which is what this class is basically about, which is applied ethics. Applied ethics is the field of ethics that deals with specific problems. So abortion, capital punishment, euthanasia, take whatever global warming, any sort of issue which, political issue, contemporary problem that we're dealing with in the public sphere, where ethicists or philosophers are coming to try help the discussion, help inform the discussion. Those would be people doing what we would call applied ethics. So that's what this course is about. This is in some universities, this contemporary moral problems course would be called applied ethics. So contemporary moral problems, applied ethics, same deal. So what we're going to be doing, of course, since we're doing applied ethics, the question would be what applied problems are we going to be looking at? We'll be looking at, right now, what I have as scheduled to take a look at is we're going to first deal with abortion. We'll spend a week on abortion. We'll spend a week on animal rights, a week on famine relief, a week on euthanasia or physician-assisted suicide. Maybe we have some nurses or doctors, so hopefully that will help be interesting to the students who are taking up a career in the medical fields. We're also, right now I have it scheduled for a week on political philosophy, so we'll be looking at John Rawls and Nozick. Rawls is sort of the more, generally seen more of a liberal, and Nozick is seen more as a libertarian or conservative political philosopher, so we'll be talking a little bit about those dueling positions. And then we'll be looking at capital punishment, or the death penalty. I also have some interesting reading on pornography, so if I later decide that the political philosophy readings or some of the readings towards the end, I'm not sure if we need to substitute one of those subjects was something different, I have some readings on pornography. That's what I'm trying to say. Or if we need more readings because we go through something a little more quickly. That's my sort of extra subject, which I have in my back pocket in case it's needed. But of course, before we do applied ethics, or at least I would not want to do applied ethics unless I already had some grounding in the abstract theory that we need to bring to bear to these applied issues. So the first thing we're going to take a look at, so basically we're going to look at those specific problems for the second half of the course. Starting about right after your midterm, we'll take a look at those. We'll start looking at those specific problems. For the the first week will be introductory material. What is ethics? What are arguments? What makes a good argument? Then we're going to spend 3 weeks or 3 lessons on the broad abstract theories. Right now in ethics, the field is dominated by 3 approaches to ethics. One is an approach to ethics focusing on consequences and an action being right if it maximizes the amount of good in the world and minimizes the amount of bad, where good is usually taken to be something like pleasure and bad is taken to be suffering. So if I want to know if I should do an action, then I just need to check to see if its consequences are going to increase the amount of pleasure minus the amount of suffering. The other approach is a rule-based approach, which is focused on the value of free choice. It's a long story, but it's basically, there's a couple of ways in which the rule is expressed. One way is that you should only perform an action which is an action for a goal if that action could be the universal way of accomplishing that goal. The other way the rule is sort of put is, and this doesn't sound like the same, but it is very similar in application, that you shouldn't use people or treat people as a tool for you accomplishing your goals. And that ethical system is more focused not on pleasure at all, but instead on the value of free choice. Both of those systems also are monistic in value. They think that there's just one value. The first one thinks that it's pleasure. The second one thinks that it's free choice. But they do differ. One is focused on consequences. The other one's focused on rules. The third approach is called virtue ethics, and it is it's an ethical system more focused on character and on being a good person, being a compassionate person, being a courageous person, being a witty person, and living a good life. So what we're going to do for the first part of this course is the first week we'll have the introductory material on what is ethics and what are arguments. But then when we get into these ethical theory stuff, the first position we'll read some Aristotle and read some about this virtue ethical position. Then we'll move on to utilitarianism or consequentialism, which is the approach that's focused on pleasure and on performing actions which will maximize the total amount of pleasure in the universe. And then lastly, we'll look at not Immanuel Kant. He would be too hard to read for this course, and you would read him though in an introduction to ethics class or a class that was just exclusively focused on ethical theory. But we'll look at a contemporary or modern day Kantian, Marcia Baron.